Gaming has without a doubt given us some of the greatest highs and the most spectacular failures in all of entertainment history, particularly in the last quarter century where things have at times gotten pretty dicey. Yo, what's going on, gamers and YouTubers? It's your guy Tooodamngolden, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another episode of Countdown Central, where today we're counting down 6 of the biggest gaming flops of the century so far. I'm talking about games that promised us the world but delivered an absolute train wreck instead. Some were doomed from the start, others crashed and burned after launch, and a few were so bad that they were practically erased from history. So buckle up, cause this is gonna get rough. Duke Nukem Forever is what happens when a game stays in development way past its expiration date. As originally announced in 1997, this thing took 14 years to come out, jumping between studios, game engines, and admittedly terrible creative decisions from the start. So it shouldn't have been a surprise that by the time it finally launched in 2011, its jokes were outdated, the mechanics were ancient, and the graphics looked like they belonged in a GameStop discount bin. The once legendary Duke had gone from an edgy action hero to an embarrassing relic of the past, reminiscent of that 40-something who just can't quite let go of his high school glory days, and you know the kinds of guys I'm talking about. Fans who had waited over a decade were instead rewarded with a clunky, uninspired mess, and let's be real folks, Duke definitely should have stayed in the 90s where he belonged. So some flops take months to fail, others take years, but somehow, someway, Concord managed to do it almost instantly. Sony hyped this as their answer to Overwatch, but when it finally dropped, nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, cared. Gamers were essentially given a generic hero shooter with bland characters, forgettable maps, and zero personality, and let's be honest folks, Concord felt like it came out 5 or 6 years too late from the jump, and in fact the launch was so underwhelming that player count dropped like a rock within days. Critics called it lifeless, uninspired, and Sony's worst attempt at a live service game yet. And that's it guys, it's gone. Sony pulled the plug on not only Concord, but the studio behind it, Firewall Studios, was also shut down. And just to reiterate how big of a flop this game really is, Concord is a title that is believed to have cost between $200 and $400 million to produce, and the peak player count, at least on Steam, was a grand total of 697. Yikes. So Cyberpunk 77 was supposed to be the game of the decade if you remember the media hype around it prior to its launch, right? You had Keanu Reeves involved, you had a developer that was well respected coming off the high that was The Witcher 3, and it was supposed to be that next level Grand Theft Auto type title that really just stuck in the gaming zeitgeist. That is, until it became one of the biggest letdowns in gaming history. CD Projekt Red promised a groundbreaking open-world RPG with next-gen AI, Keanu Reeves, and a fully traversable transit system where you could ride trains around Night City, but instead guys, we got a glitch-ridden nightmare, NPCs T-posing, cars falling through the ground, and a subway system that still to this day does not exist. In fact, this one was so broken at launch guys that Sony straight up removed it from its store altogether. Now to their credit, CD Projekt Red has spent years fixing the game, and thanks to the massive updates and the Phantom Liberty expansion, it's now one of the best RPGs out there. But to me guys, this is only another cog in a much larger issue in the gaming industry at the moment, that is games being utterly unplayable at launch and then fixing it later. Looking at you, Doom. Now, if you remember, Anthem was supposed to be BioWare's grand entry into the looter shooter genre, a game where you could fly around in mech suits, explore a vast world, and team up for epic battles, which absolutely sounds amazing, right? Well, in reality, Anthem was just a high-priced Destiny knockoff with absolutely none of the depth. Missions were repetitive, the loot system was broken, and the ever-changing world was about as dynamic as a rock.
It's not just a boulder, it's a rock, a rock.
Within a year, BioWare promised a massive rework and then pretty much radio silence until the boys at EA quietly abandoned the game altogether. Now what sucks about Anthem is that this one definitely had potential, but instead of soaring into the upper echelons of great games, this one crashed harder than a javelin suit overheating mid-flight. So much like our initial entry, Duke Nukem Forever, Two Humans spent 10 years in development hell only to end up so bad that it got legally erased from existence. Seriously. Silicon Knights hyped this up as a cyber Norse RPG with groundbreaking combat and deep storytelling, but what we got instead was an awkward, clunky mess with a combat system that for some damn reason forced you to fight with the right stick. I don't know why. But the worst offender was this ridiculous death animation that took you so long you could literally go make a sandwich before respawning. Now, after this game catastrophically flopped, the studio blamed Epic Games, sued them, and lost, and then a court ordered them to destroy every unsold copy of the game. Now, that's certainly next level failure right there. Imagine you putting out a product so bad that it is court ordered for every single copy to be destroyed. That's crazy. The number one biggest flop of the century so far has to go to Aliens Colonial Marines, a game so spectacularly bad it definitely deserves its own horror movie, as what Gearbox promised us was intense action, terrifying xenomorphs, and a faithful Aliens experience. Now, what we got instead were enemies that forgot how to attack thanks to a single typo in the game's code. And yeah guys, you heard that right. One misspelled word ruined the AI and made the xenomorphs about as scary as a sock puppet. Now on top of that, there was actually some controversy surrounding this one, as the game looked nothing like its pre-release trailers, leading to accusations of blatant false advertising. And to make things worse, or better depending on how you see things, Gearbox allegedly funneled this one's budget into Borderlands 2 instead. So in a way, we did get one good game out of this mess, just not the one that people actually paid for. So there you have it, 6 of the biggest gaming flops of the century so far. Which of these do you think was the biggest disaster, or is there one that we missed altogether? If so, be sure to let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's train wrecks and disappointments, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go patch my disappointment.